Thank you very much for all of your support and your publicity this week. It was fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous, and we are grateful for all of it. Thank you. I'm going to throw the floor open fairly quickly. I was absolutely thrilled with that performance. We knew that Viktor Postol, there were, certain aficionados who said that, Postol was over the hill. What a load of shit. He was in terrific condition. He was a very dangerous opponent the whole way through, and Josh started off poorly and learned on the job and put on the performance of his life. And I think you'll all agree it was a terrific fight. And I think Josh and Shane and I agree that the points were too wide. It should have been closer. It should have been 3-4 rounds. But it was a terrific fight, and it was the sort of fight that we promised. We knew it would be a great fight. We knew there was jeopardy involved. We knew there would be risk involved, but I thought he performed incredibly well. So, Josh, what would you like to say?
Yeah, just want to say, thanks everybody for the support again. That was some fight. He came here, and I think he fought his best fight of his career. To be honest, everybody saying, he was over the hill and all that, but he came here, and it was his last sort of crack at the whip. To beat me, he would have been fighting back in title contention. So I think he became in the best shape of his life, and it showed tonight. Definitely, he was very strong, and he was awkward with his front hand and his feet. His feet were more lively than they were previously, and all these other fights I've been watching. So yeah, he surprised me, and I had to adapt a few times there, 3 or 4 times in the fight. I had to adapt the way I was boxing. I was getting caught early on. My defence was a bit too leaky, but I adapted a couple of times, and I got the job done eventually. And once I started relaxing, getting my double jab off and not trying to go in with the heavy punches first, I started getting them off when I was using my speed and my timing, and I started getting going. I had to adjust and bite down on the gum shield and sort of march them down really. So yeah, I'm happy with the performance. Although it wasn't my best performance, I feel it was probably 70% there. I feel I can definitely perform a lot better, a lot sharper. But I'll take a lot of positives from that fight, given the calibre opponent that it was. Top draw opponent, and I come out on top with a below par performance. So I'm really happy.
So can I throw the floor open to you? So questions, where you go.
Josh, I've known you a long time, and I must admit I've been at hundreds of your fights, as you know. I've never seen you hurt. In the 7th round there when he hit you, how hurt were you? Were you badly hurt, or was just a
No, he caught me a good shot. I know the mistake that I made. I went in and I come out with my hands a bit too low, which I was doing a bit too much early on, and he caught me right on the button. He did catch me right on the button, and I had to sort of back off a little bit and use my boxing brain and not fight fire with fire and manoeuvre him round until I recovered. But I recovered really quickly, and I had to adjust my game plan again. So I'm really happy with the way I've overcome these hurdles tonight. So I'm very
well done,
happy.
Mate, well done.
Josh, Craig from Fight Talk, you haven't went the distance before over 12 rounds. You seem to come on strong the last 3 rounds. How did you feel at the end in terms of stamina, and how did you rate those last 3 rounds? Because you seemed to dominate more so in the middle rounds.
Yeah, I felt great, and I knew everybody said, what happens if it goes to 12 rounds? I can do 12 rounds standing on my head in the gym. I do it in the gym. I fight at a ferocious pace. We train at a really fast pace on the pads and sparring. So I knew that if it got to the 12 rounds, I would do it no problem. So good. It was just I had to think a lot there. And I had to adjust a lot there and adjust the way I boxed 2 or 3 times. So I showed a lot there, adaptability. I can adapt to different styles of fighting when I need to. So I'm happy. Yeah.
Barry, what kind of statement does this send out to the rest of the 140-pound division?
Well, I think I think the most important thing is that what Josh said. He won on a bad night, and he beat one of the best fighters in the world with a record of 30 wins, 29 wins out of 30, only been beaten by Terence Crawford on a bad night. So, and he had to make adjustments. Very, very few fighters, even the very best elite fighters, can make adjustments in the middle of a fight when you're not having a couple of good rounds. that takes something very special, and this kid is very special. And you know, I'm absolutely over the moon at the way he handled himself tonight. I thought he could have stopped him in the, was it the 10th round you had him over?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was like a hair's breadth from stopping him. But he wobbled him again in the 11th and wobbled him again in the 12th. So it's a terrific performance. I'm very, very happy with it.
Josh, do you feel like you're on the verge of something special now? Fulfilling a lifelong ambition?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on the verge of, you know, my dream and fighting for a world title next, hopefully. So I think that was playing on my mind a little bit, and before the fight, you know, I didn't feel any pressure, but it was playing in the back of my mind, you know, saying if I win this, I'm then fighting for a world title. So, but that's going to come with experience, and I felt I dealt with it well, you know, a little bit below par performance, but I started very poorly with my defence and, you know, relaxing, switching off a bit too much. But, you know, I adapted, and I'd say I've got definitely 20-30% better in me, more sharper than that in me. So I'm really happy, and you know, next one to the big one, on the bigger and better things, and fight for that world title. So I'll make sure I'll go back to the drawing board with Shane. I'll take a couple of weeks off, only a couple of weeks off, you know, and straight back into the gym and righting the wrongs that we did tonight, you know. So I can't wait.
Barry, Ramirez fights in a couple of weeks against O'Connor. Presumably then Josh is in line to fight the winner of that fight, which I think most of us assume would be Ramirez. Any chance of getting that in Scotland, or would Josh have to travel?
Well, we just have to wait and see. You know, there's have to be negotiations, and bear in mind he's a top-ranked fighter, and he's a pretty big draw on the west coast of America. But he did win the title in New York. We'd be happy to go to New York. We're not worried about a takeover fight. But this boy's ready to go. That's when we took you know, aggressive decisions with him and made these choices of opponents and put him in there. And you know, he showed tonight what he is. He's a world-class fighter, and I think he's the best 140 and a pounder in the world. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Barry, is there any complication to that fight with Regis Prograis carrying the interim WBC
We're not
title?
interested in the interim title.
So that doesn't entitle him to any sort of match with Ramirez in any way? There's nothing to be cleaned up that end?
This was a final eliminator. The guy wins his fights for the world title. Whether Danny Conner beats Jose Ramirez, which is highly unlikely, we're going to be fighting the champion next, which is what it's all about. That's why we took the risk. That's why, you know, I talked about there being jeopardy and everything else, and we knew there was, because this guy, he was a very sharp hitter. He's long and rangy, very hard to adjust to. Josh normally jabs the head of his opponents, but this guy, tall, awkward, great step back, hard to hit, and sharp hitter. You know? So I'm absolutely thrilled with his performance. Great performance, especially as he, you know, had to show grit, and he showed guts and determination, and make adjustments in the middle of the fight. So it's great.
It's widely removed that one boxing Super Series, the next weight division are looking at is super lightweight. Is that something you guys will look at?
We'll look at everything.
Okay.
We'll look at everything. You know, there's no given. So we beat. You know, we've beaten #1 contenders before, and then not got a shot and had to move and adjust different ways. But we keep all our options open.
Josh, when you said you were performing at sort of 70% of your best, do you put that down to anything at all?
No, I think I'm just trying a wee bit too hard for the first couple of rounds. You know, big stage. You know, at home in Glasgow, with, you know, potentially riding on big fights next. So I think I took a wee bit of time, you know, to start relaxing, and instead of jabbing my way in, I was trying to just for one jab and go for a strong left hand, because I thought he was open with the left hand to the left hand, but I was just trying a bit too hard to get it off, and I made a few mistakes. But you know, I'm more than happy with my performance. You know, I know the mistakes that I made, and I'll make the adjustments in the gym when I go back to the gym with Shane.
Shane, how did you see it?
Yeah, I thought the fight was a little bit closer. We had 3 rounds up. Same thing, you know. He was giving away a few of the early rounds, just letting him pick him off, you know. And obviously, he had to overcome something he's never overcome before. But it was a fight of 2 halves, you know. Like he was nicking a few rounds early on, but then Josh came on so strong down the stretch. hurt him a few times. Still got a little bit reckless, still looking for wide shots, but you know, as I said, as he said, and we both agree, 70% of himself there tonight, and that's only because he was trying to force the fight sometimes when you don't need to. You can just set it up a little bit more with a jab. But these are all things that he's going to learn from, and he's learning against a guy that's been a world champion, been in unification fights, fought the best, dropped and stopped Lucas Matisse. I mean, he's got an incredible resume, and he's learned on the fight in his 13th fight at such a top level.
Barry, we've as a nation been behind fighters before, obviously Jim Watts, Alex Arthurs, Harrisons and Burns. What do you think Josh can go on to achieve in his career, and where would he rank for you in terms of potential for to look forward?
I still think Josh Taylor is one of the most exciting fighters in the world. You know, forget England or forget Europe. He's one of the most exciting fighters in the world, and I'm sure all the people who watched that fight on TV and who watched ringside will agree. It was a terrific fight, and he had to make adjustments against a very dangerous fighter who was very difficult to work out. Get nailed. I know because I got my head smacked lots when I was a fighter. It's people are saying, well, move forward, and you go boom, and you think, okay, move forward, boom, and you think, hold on a second, stop telling me to move forward because I keep getting nailed. It's difficult. It's very difficult when you've had 13 professional fights to learn those things against a very sharp shooter, very hard puncher. I mean, he's got a terrific chin. I mean, Crawford had him over and one legitimate knockdown, but Josh Taylor had him over. 13 professional fights. Don't forget that. That's the most important thing. And everybody learns from mistakes, and he learned from mistakes in the middle of action, in the middle of it all, and the punches firing over your head, the punches that can knock you unconscious. Learning, and that's what you call, that's real class. That's real class.
How big did the step up feel for you, Josh, in terms of opponent? I mean, he seemed to know when to nullify the fight, seemed to have a hold of things going on when you were coming on strong. Just good experience, I think, for Postol. How big a step was it for you now?
That was a huge step, but again, I didn't feel like it was nothing that I couldn't handle. Not once did I feel uncomfortable there or feel like I was out of my depth, or I just was trying a bit too hard, and when I did relax, I got my shots off and I started coming on strong, and I had to adjust. So no, I didn't feel like in terms of the stage and the opponent wise, and who he was, it was a huge step up. But in terms of actual boxing, there was nothing that I couldn't handle. Nothing that I couldn't handle. I feel I could perform much better. If I performed 100% my best there, I do strongly believe that I would have got him out of there. But unfortunately these things happen, so that's it.
Josh, what would be your preference if you could pick? Where would you like to have Ramirez come to Scotland, or Edinburgh, or would you
I don't know, potentially I would like to travel for it, to go and win it, go over there, challenge him in his back garden, win it, bring it back to Scotland, and fight at Edinburgh Castle, just before the Edinburgh Festival, when all the stands are up, the Esplanade, in the middle of the Esplanade, when it's all lit up at night, it would be absolutely iconic. That would be one for the history books and a dream come true. So that would be brilliant. Get piped into the ring and all that sort of stuff. It would be brilliant.
Can you make that happen, Barry?
Yes, every likelihood that we could happen, but it's just someone could speak to God and organise good weather. That would be fantastic. Right, you want to do one-on-ones, guys?